How real was the Nuremberg movie? An analysis of historical accuracy. The 2025 film Nuremberg, directed by James Vanderbilt and starring Russell Crowe as Hermann Göring and Rami Malek as Douglas Kelly, is a psychological thriller that dramatizes the lead-up to and proceedings of the Nuremberg trials following World War II. Based on Jack L. High's 2013 book The Nazi and the Psychiatrist, Hermann Göring and His Suicide, the movie explores the psychological evaluations of Nazi leaders by American psychiatrist Douglas Kelly, focusing on his complex interactions with Göring, the highest-ranking surviving Nazi. While the film captures the essence of the trial's historical significance, establishing precedents for international law and confronting the horrors of the Holocaust, it blends factual events with dramatic embellishments to heighten tension and emotional impact. This analysis examines the film's historical accuracy, drawing on key events, characters, statistics from the real trials, and deviations for cinematic effect, ultimately concluding that Nuremberg is largely faithful to the broad strokes of history but takes liberties in personal narratives and specific interactions to serve its thriller genre. Sources include historical analyses, reviews, and trial records, providing a balanced view of its fidelity. To understand the film's realism, it's essential to recap the real Nuremberg trials. The International Military Tribunal IMT at Nuremberg, held from November 20, 1945, to October 1, 1946, was the first of several proceedings prosecuting Nazi war criminals. 24 major figures were indicted, though only 21 stood trial due to Robert Ley's suicide, Gustav Krupp's unfitness, and Martin Bormann's trial in absentia. The charges included crimes against peace, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and conspiracy to commit these acts. The tribunal, composed of judges from the United States, United Kingdom, Soviet Union, and France, aimed to deliver justice for atrocities including the Holocaust, which claimed approximately 6 million Jewish lives and millions more from other groups. Statistically, the IMT processed over 100,000 documents, heard 116 witnesses, and generated 42 volumes of transcripts. Outcomes were stark: 12 defendants received death sentences, 11 by hanging, as Göring committed suicide, 3 were sentenced to life imprisonment: Rudolf Hess, Walther Funk, Erich Raeder, 4 to terms between 10 and 20 years, Karl Dönitz 10 years, Konstantin von Neurath 15 years, Baldur von Skyrek 20 years, Albert Speer 20 years, and 3 were acquitted: Hjalmar Schacht, Franz von Papen, Hans Fritzsche. These statistics underscore the trial's scale. Of the 199 defendants across all 13 Nuremberg proceedings, including subsequent trials by U.S. military tribunals, 161 were convicted, with 37 death sentences overall. The film accurately reflects this framework, portraying the IMT as a groundbreaking effort to hold leaders accountable, but it narrows focus to the psychological prelude rather than the full legal spectacle. The plot centers on Douglas Kelly, a real U.S. Army psychiatrist tasked with evaluating the defendant's mental competency to stand trial. In reality, Kelly, along with psychologist Gustav Gilbert, conducted interviews and Rorschach tests on the prisoners from May 1945 onward, first in Luxembourg and then in Nuremberg. Kelly's assessments concluded that the Nazis were not clinically insane but rational individuals driven by ideology, a finding that aligns with the film's depiction of Göring as charismatic and manipulative rather than deranged. The movie shows Kelly forming a disturbing bond with Göring, sharing traits like intelligence and ego, and helping him detox from paracaine addiction, while Göring requests Kelly adopt his daughter Edda, a detail from L.'s book but omitted in the film for pacing. Historically, Kelly did interact extensively with Göring, noting his high IQ 138 on tests and using these sessions to probe motivations behind the regime's crimes. Statistics from Kelly's work reveal that 90% of the defendants scored above average on intelligence tests, challenging notions of inherent madness. Goring, for instance, was deemed sane and fit for trial despite his morphine dependency. The film faithfully captures Goring's capture on May 7, 1945, near Salzburg, Austria, by U.S. forces, his initial imprisonment in Luxembourg, and his physical state over 300 pounds, bedecked in medals, and maintaining a defiant Prussian demeanor even after being stripped of luxuries. Crowe's portrayal emphasizes Goring's complexity, evil and remorseless yet concerned for his family, which mirrors historical accounts of Goring scheming to beat the hangman by suicide. One of the film's strongest accurate elements is its courtroom sequences, drawn directly from trial transcripts. Goring's testimony, where he evades responsibility for the final solution by claiming it involved emigration rather than extermination, is based on real defenses. He famously sparred with prosecutor Robert Jackson, initially outmaneuvering him with wit before British Deputy David Maxwell Fyfe used documentary evidence to expose Goring's role in anti-Jewish policies, including the 1938 Kristallnacht pogroms that resulted in over 90 Jewish deaths and 30,000 arrests. Statistics highlight the Holocaust's scale presented at trial. Witnesses like Rudolf Haas, Auschwitz commandant, testified to gassing 2.5 million people, with total camp deaths estimated at 4 million. The film incorporates actual archival footage of liberated concentration camps, shown to defendants as ordered by General Dwight D. Eisenhower to document atrocities irrefutably. Over 80,000 feet of film were captured, serving as key evidence. This scene, where defendants react to horrors like bulldozed bodies at Bergen-Belsen where 50,000 perished, is historically precise, emphasizing the never again ethos and the trial's role in establishing genocide as a crime. Become a member. However, the film introduces deviations for dramatic effect, blending fact with fiction. A major inaccuracy is the fabricated Vatican meeting between Jackson, played by Michael Shannon, and Pope Pius XII, where they discuss politics in a backroom setting. This never occurred and perpetuates the debunked myth of Pius XII as a Nazi collaborator or Hitler's pope. In reality, Pius XII condemned Nazism in encyclicals like Mit Brennender Zarga 1937 and sheltered thousands of Jews in Italy. Post-war, Israel's chief rabbi praised him for saving over 800,000 lives through diplomatic efforts. Historians, including non-Catholics, have refuted collaboration claims, citing Vatican archives opened in 2020 showing Pius's covert resistance. This scene appears to add moral depth but distorts history, potentially misleading viewers on the Church's wartime role. Other adaptations include dramatized personal arcs. Kelly's role as a courier for Goring's family and his drunken leak to a journalist leading to expulsion are fictionalized for tension, though based on his real notes and book 22 Cells in Nuremberg 1947, which sold poorly and contributed to his despair. The film accurately depicts Kelly's post-trial trauma, alcoholism and suicide by cyanide in 1958, mirroring Goring's method but amplifies his obsession with understanding evil into a thriller trope. Goring's suicide on October 15, 1946, the night before execution, is factual. He ingested cyanide hidden possibly in hair cream or smuggled by a guard. A 2005 confession suggested a German woman delivered it, rejecting hanging as undignified for a soldier. The movie leaves the cyanide source ambiguous, aligning with historical uncertainty, but omits details like Goring's note claiming long possession of the poison. Supporting characters add layers of accuracy and fiction. Gustav Gilbert Leo Woodall, the psychologist who co-authored findings with Kelly, is shown collaborating, in reality, Gilbert's Nuremberg Diary 1947 documented defendants' reactions, such as Stryker's anti-Semitic rants and Hess's feigned amnesia later deemed genuine selective memory loss. Statistics from their tests: defendants' average IQ was 128, with Göring highest at 138, supporting the film's theme that evil stems from choice, not insanity. Interpreter Howard Trieste, a fictional composite of real translators, provides a Jewish perspective, reflecting the 70% of Nuremberg staff with Jewish heritage, many refugees. Warden Burton Andrus' strict regime strip searches, suicide watches is accurate, as Lay's hanging prompted heightened security. The film's broader context is realistic. U.S. reluctance to trials preferring summary executions is true, with Jackson advocating for due process to legitimize justice. Nuremberg's selection as venue symbolized irony, site of Nazi rallies now hosting accountability. Technically, innovations like IBM's simultaneous translation systems enabled the multilingual trial, handling 403 sessions. However, the movie compresses timelines and amplifies psychological duels, such as Kelly predicting Göring's behavior, for narrative flow. Overall, Nuremberg scores high on accuracy for core events, about 80% faithful per expert reviews, capturing the trial's impact on international law, including the Nuremberg Principles adopted by the UN in 1950, influencing bodies like the International Criminal Court. Statistics reinforce this. The IMT set precedents for 1,416 convictions in subsequent trials, with 200 executed or imprisoned. Deviations, like the Pius XII scene, are minor but notable, serving to explore themes of guilt and fascism's allure, as Kelly warned of its persistence. As a forgotten chapter, the psychiatrist's role, the film educates on how ordinary intellects enabled extraordinary evil, reminding viewers of history's relevance amid rising authoritarianism. While not a documentary, its blend of fact and drama makes the past visceral, ensuring the trial's lessons endure.